G'day guys, welcome to episode 13 of our LinkedIn live show, live every Thursday with John Lees. No matter where you are, I hope you guys are having an awesome week. Hope it's been a good one wherever you are, and really looking forward to today's show with John. Last week we covered the topic of how to lead your sales team to success. We covered things like the quarterly email strategy and many other topics. It was a great session, 7 key points in total. So if you haven't watched that, jump back over to my YouTube page, the replay of that. You can also watch the replay on my LinkedIn page here. If you just head up to my profile, go to activities, click on posts, and find last week's show. This week's show is all about leadership strategies for managers. So really looking forward to this one again. Again, John's chunked it down into a few key points. Again, if you're watching, wherever you're watching, over here on LinkedIn, on Facebook or the YouTube channel, leave a comment, guys. If you've got a question, please jump in with a question. Happy to throw them to John. And as the show goes on, there'll be an opportunity where you'll be able to grab John's email address and contact him directly if you've got any questions or anything that you want him to help you with your business. So I'm going to bring John into the broadcast straight away. He's waiting patiently for us over in California in the United States. How are you over there this evening, John? Great to see you again this week.
Thank you.
Had a busy day?
I've had a very busy day, yeah, and look forward to having a rest, but I'm looking forward to this session. I hope people enjoy it. And so the only problem I've got is there was just an incident yesterday. You know how it is. You can't really go to a restaurant these days in the usual way. So we went to see some people we know, and they'd organized a lunch in their garden, which was very nice. They have a nice garden, and we were all sat at a reasonable distance from each other. And we were there for 3 hours, and I must say it was very enjoyable. And then on the way back, a police officer stopped me, and he walked over to the car, and I pulled the window down. And he said, do you realize that you were driving at over 60 miles an hour in a 50-mile-an-hour zone? I said, really? No, I don't think so, officer. I really don't think so. I think you'll find that I was doing about 51 miles an hour. And my wife said, John, why don't you tell him the truth? You were doing very close to 80 miles an hour. Couldn't believe she would say that. He said, by the way, your brake lights are not working. I said, really? I didn't know that. My wife said, you told me they weren't working 2 months ago. And then he said, and I noticed that you don't have your seatbelt on. I said, no, well, what happened was, officer, is that when you started walking to the car, I took it off. And my wife said, John, be honest, you've never ever worn a seatbelt. I said, excuse me, please shut up. And the officer turned to my wife and he said, does your husband always talk to you like that? She said, no, only when he's drunk. So that was really nice. And I'm not talking to her at the moment about it or anything, but I'm going to do my best to keep a smile on my face as we go through this session today. And I think you've got a title for it, have you not?
Yes, we certainly do, John. I'm going to pop that up on screen as we chat away here. I'll just very quickly jump back into the other little section here. John, we were talking about a few things off air before. One of them was, about being accountable. Again, it seems to be a real common thread throughout the shows of making sure that we're applying ourselves. And one of the big lessons I got out of last week, in particular, when we're talking about how to lead your sales team to success, was setting out the strategy and the plan with your customers and being honest with them up front and setting that expectation. So at least when you say it, you're going to have to deliver on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And not only that, but, management tends to be involved in enforcement, which is fine. In other words, they make sure that they try to make sure that the staff, usually from an office point of view, that the staff do what they're supposed to do, etc. Yep. But the best way to ensure that enforcement works is to have endorsement from the customers. So the idea is to simply meet with a few customers, Tell them this is what we've got planned. We're going to go through it, and I want you to make notes and tell me whether or not you think this is a good idea or how can it be improved, etc. And when you get endorsement, the enforcement factor becomes a lot easier because the customers are saying, go ahead, that's perfect, thank you. Very few companies do that. Very few companies do it. They guess at it.
Yeah, and we'll talk, again, we were talking about that before, is making bad assumptions, guessing at things without, having the real information, or even again, last week, we touched on it, testing things, role-playing things, making sure that you're taking out all those, uncertainties.
Yeah, it's basic in the medical world. And, just a few minutes ago, I told a joke about my wife and I and so forth. I test every joke that I do. People don't know that I'm testing it. I will tell one or two neighbors about the joke, and they will laugh. But I noticed maybe they didn't laugh at a certain point where I wanted them to laugh. So I make a mental note. I've got to update that. I go to Starbucks, and if there's nobody there, I tell them jokes and so forth. I hide it. I don't say, "Oh, I've got a joke for you." They'll say, "How are you, John?" And I'll say, "Oh, this happened," and then I go through it, as if it was something that actually happened. What I'm doing, and what they don't know, apart from the fact that I love making them laugh, is that I'm testing my material. And that's what companies should do. They do it with their products. We have a term called quality control, but we don't have it, or we should have it, with our sales staff as well, the people who've been sent out to market, and they're on their own, and they're not going to come back and say, "Oh, I didn't do it, I forgot to do it." They're going to say, "Yeah, no, it didn't seem to work," or whatever the case may be. We've got to help them to be successful.
Yep. Okay. Absolutely. So, John, I'm going to disappear off screen. I'm going to leave you with our viewers here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. I'm going to hand it over to you. And, hope you guys enjoy this episode. And I'll see you guys all very soon, or I'll jump back in with a question if I have any. Over to you, John.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you to the thousands that have tuned in this afternoon. I'm not sure exactly how many thousand it is. But seriously, we are grateful. I'm grateful, and I know that Simon is for your time. And all we're trying to do is pass on ideas. And as we pass them on, we are reminded of these ideas ourselves. So the first idea is, if you're there, Simon, is first get mad, then get better. So, for instance, if you went to see the doctor and the doctor said, "Okay, I think we know what the problem is and we know who caused it. Okay, it was you. Now, tell me about your diet. Tell me about this. Tell me about that." And you tell them, and then they say, "Okay, well, you are causing this problem yourself," and so forth. And first get mad, then you'll get better. A situation that happened to me many years ago, I was in my late 20s or early 30s. There was a doctor in Australia, and I told my wife that I was going to see him. And he was on television quite a lot, and he very, very Aussie in the way that he spoke, and very loud, the way he spoke. I don't mean that all Aussies do that, but he was talking like that, and he was very intelligent. And my wife said, "Oh, you should also talk to him about how to quit smoking, because I want you to quit smoking." And so did I. So anyway, I went to see him, and he organized for me to come and see him in 2 weeks. And when I did, he sat me down and he said, "Okay, I want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to talk to you. And at a certain point, I'm going to start talking to your subconscious." So I thought, and I did, I genuinely thought, great, this is great. So he started talking to me, and I had to close my eyes. And then I heard him turn on a tape recorder, and I heard him leave the room. I kept my eyes closed, and I heard him go into another room and have the same conversation with someone else. And then maybe 5 minutes later, I heard him go out of that room, turn the tape recorder on, and go to another room and have the same conversation. So I thought, what is this? What's going on? So anyway, eventually he came back to my room. I still kept my eyes closed because I thought there was something wrong with me. And he said, "Okay, John, I'm going to count to 3 very slowly. And when I get to 3, you will then wake up and we'll go from there." So, okay. So he counted to 3. I opened my eyes like as if I'd been asleep. I hadn't. And he said, okay, I've got a tape for you here. I want you to play this at home and I will see you in 2 weeks from now. Okay, thank you. I was very disappointed. Very disappointed. My dad had died as a result of smoking. My wife's father had died as a result of smoking. And, I'm trying to figure out how can I do it? Because apparently I don't have the strength to do it. So went back 2 weeks later and he did something different, which was interesting. He asked me to sit down. He said, I want you to hold your hand like that. And I want you to put a 20-cent piece there. And he gave me a 20-cent piece. I put it in my hand. He said, just keep it like that. And as I talk to you, eventually I will begin talking to your subconscious and you will drop the coin. Okay? And that's when I will know that I'm talking to your subconscious. So he put the coin in. I was quite excited by this. So I put my hand out, held the coin, and he started talking to me. Had no effect on me at all. None. And I think he was getting a little testy. So I decided I'd drop the coin with my eyes still closed. Okay, I did. Dr. Wright, his name was. Very nice guy. He used to be on TV all the time. And so then he turned another cassette on and then he went out and so I thought, oh boy, this is ridiculous. So I could hear him doing the same thing in other rooms, put your hand out, 20-cent piece and so forth. Eventually he came back into the room to get something and I had already sat up straight, but he hadn't seen this. I said, doctor, is it possible for me to talk to you, please? Oh, he said, now, what I want you to know is that your mind, I said, no, it's not working. And let's assume that it's my fault, okay? But I want you to know that I want to quit smoking. And I told him about my dad and my mum's dad. What can I do? What can I do to stop smoking? And he said, okay, just give me 10 minutes. So he had some other work to do with people. And then he came back and he said, John, this is a sponge, as you would recognize, the kind of sponge that you would use to clean your car. Come with me, please. We went to his sink. He held the sponge and then he got some oil and he poured the oil onto the sponge and then he squoshed the sponge and he said, notice, please, John, that some of the oil will come out of the sponge, but much of it will be retained. That's what happens when you smoke. Okay, when you smoke and you smoke continually, there's tiny hairs in your nose and throat called cilia will eventually die off, so to speak, and they will lay on the where you breathe in and breathe out and so forth. They will lay down because their normal job is as anything comes in that's not supposed to come in, they will move and make them go down into your stomach and so forth and so on away. But if you keep smoking, they will just simply die temporarily. And then you've got real problems because then it affects your throat, this, that, and the other. Anyway, I never smoked again. That had a dynamic effect on me. And even friends I had that should have known better who would say, Lees, you're not going to give up, but I did. Now, the point is, I got so angry with myself from what he said about the sponge and the oil and what have you, that I realized I'd been doing that to myself and not knowing anything about it. I was as mad as hell with me. And I then decided that I would never smoke again. And I haven't. So when I say first get mad, then get better, if you don't know about a situation, if you don't know what it's really all about, then you can't really make it better. So I've told you before in other sessions, when I first became a sales manager at 25, I went out with the reps, saw how terrible they were at selling. Our fault, not their fault. They had not been given standards. They had not been given training. They hadn't been given incentives. Okay? So I had to start changing that, and I did. And I did that because I had been a salesperson. No one had helped me either. So I wasn't really there to teach anyone because I wasn't an expert on it, but I could see from the interaction of the salesperson and the customer that they weren't doing the job the way they were supposed to. And that was our fault. So I said, I really got mad about that. Okay, and there's many things. When I had a board of customers at Schwarzkopf, and they came to our meetings 3 times a year over a 9-year period. We had a board of customers in Australia, a board of customers in New Zealand. Best thing we ever did, because we learned the truth about our business as seen by the customers. Generally speaking, in terms of our products, our service, our salespeople, our promotions, etc., which wasn't nice. And the other thing we found out is that they had problems with their business and they weren't strictly business people, and we needed to help them to be better business people, because if your business people, customers fail, then you will fail too. Okay, you will go down with them. So if you don't get mad, you can't get better. The only way to get mad is to find out exactly what's going on. Talk to customers, get the feedback. I know people don't like it for the most part. I've shown you this before. This is the kind of thing they use in hotels, okay? And there's all the questions they ask, all right? Lots and lots of questions, in this case, about 60 questions, like as if a person staying in a hotel would see themselves having to face up to 60 questions. They would ask people to fill this out, and that was the end of that. Less than 3% of people fill them out. And then they would send it to someone else, and then that someone else would send it to management. They didn't get mad because they didn't know what was going on. And then they all started doing the same thing. So there you have the Hyatt, there you have the Royal Pines, there you have Four Seasons, there you have Constellation Hotel Group, Intercontinental, just all the same. Everything was the same, all copying, getting feedback, but only tiny little bit of feedback. And they would think, well, you know, if there's no complaints, there's nothing wrong. There is, okay? Go looking for it. That's what they do in the medical world, and that's what we should do in the sales world. Get mad, then get better, okay? Don't get mad with other people, get mad with yourself. Next point. Leaders in business are always just getting started. So no matter how good they are at what they do, how much they've achieved, they are working on, as they do in the medical world, a new and better way of doing things. So what I want you to do now is, well, I'll show you on here, is a very simple idea called getting started. So if we use the word start, the first thing that we do is to stop temporarily what we're currently doing. Okay, well, absolutely vital. And you make a decision. And that decision is that you are going to start thinking carefully about the way things are done, and we're going to do it, and we're going to take time out. We're not going to spend all our time on it. We're not going to take our time away from other critical areas, but we are going to stop, and we're going to make a decision that we are going to do this, and then you make time as to when it's going to happen, who's going to be involved, and so forth. Then you get to the think stage as to what are we going to talk about? What issues need to be addressed? Which issues do we feel need to be uplifted, made better, improved, etc.? And then you begin to ask. Okay? Ask what? Ask about how can we make it better? What can we do to make it better? There's no question you can do it. Everybody can do it. The problem is they usually don't stop and think about it and then get on with it and say, what can we do to make this better? And then the next point is start rebuilding. Take the ideas that you've been discussing, the most serious ideas, and start to rebuild. Start to improve situations, and then finally, test your ideas. As I said, don't take all day, every day to do this, but make a time to do it, make a decision to do it, very important, and then start thinking about which areas should we improve, or which area, that's up to you. This is what I had to do at Schwarzkopf, because I found out that we had problems all over the damn place. This is when I became the national sales manager, and I could see that all sorts of problems were happening, and everybody was busy every day and so forth. There's a big difference between being busy and being successful. So I then decided that we would take time out, and that's what I called it at the time, time out, and we went through these areas here, and we did it in more than one area. We had to think about it in more, which areas are we going to get better in, and we looked at some of the most critical areas, our sales standards, our sales training, our way of incentivizing and rewarding our salespeople, etc. Took us about a month to go through it. We allocated time accordingly. And when we came to the end of that month, we had a fantastic recipe for moving forward. Okay, so it is vital that we do this. If we don't, we're our own worst enemies. Next, bombardment marketing. So let's say you've got an idea you want to take to market. It's not necessarily a new product. It might be, but most people have got products. So if you've got an idea, a very good idea, a proven idea, you remember I talked about the ideas bank, success ideas, and you keep collecting them. And the ideas come from customers that you know have created high-level success, very high-level success. And I'll just remind you of what that looks like. So here's the customers of the company. And some of them are making this sort of progress. Some, only a few, are making this much progress. And only maybe one or two here and there will be making incredible levels of success, very high levels. Not all the same, but they will have some that really do extremely well in between of all this other stuff that goes on and so forth. You will find these people here. What sort of results are these people achieving? What kind of motivation did they have to get involved with this product and promote it and present it to their customers better than other people? Our customers were salon owners. What strategies did they use? Now, if we find out about these things, no matter where these people are, in which state they're in, which town they're in, these people exist. There's no question about it. In sport, we all know who the high achievers are. But we must know and look for customers that are achieving excellent results. And the one I remember best is a lady. We were selling a product, and it was sort of about that size, and it was called Bonnewell, and it was a treatment product used by salons to help clients that had problems with their hair. There may be perm when perms were in vogue, or color problems, whatever. The point is, it was a very good treatment product. Hardly anyone sold any of it to any of the customers or used it as part of their own services. And then one day I found out that someone was way down here. I found out by accident. I found out by looking at how much this particular lady in Sydney was buying from us, disproportionate amount, way, way over what everybody else was buying. And the salesperson didn't know what they were doing, but he was delighted they were doing it. The sales manager in New South Wales had no idea what was going on, but he too was delighted with it. So I called the lady. Her name is Mary Ann Graham. I got permission to go to her salon to see what she was doing, and I was amazed. She had taken our product. She didn't sell the product, and she didn't mention the product to her customers. She sold a particular service, which she gave a name to, which was treating the hair of people. And she used that product. She didn't tell them about the name of the product, because if we had gone out of business, then she wouldn't have the product. She'd have to get it from somewhere else, or an equivalent product, which, by the way, was easy, from L'Oreal, from Wella, and so forth. So she showed me how she trained the staff, to present the idea. She had next to every mirror a promotional thing, nothing sales type thing, just letting people know that this particular service. And as a result of what she did and the staff did, they had extraordinary results. So the first thing that came into my mind, because I'd only been with the company a month, is I've got to let people know about this. And that's when I drew this sketch first up, because this was the truth. This was the norm. This was the average. Okay. And these were the high achievers. And you can bet your life there are other people like Mary Ann Graham around the country that were also achieving it, and we didn't know anything about it. So I started to incentivize the salespeople to report back to me on high achievers, etc., which they did. And we took those ideas. We looked at all of these factors here. What kind of results are they getting? what kind of motivation are they getting? What kind of strategies, what kind of motivation drove them to do what they did? What kind of strategies did they use? And another one was, what kind of lessons did they learn from their work? Because all the good people, as I said, with the first point I make is keep thinking about how you can improve what you do all the time. So I very much suggest to you that you've got to be able to take ideas to the market. Bombardment marketing basically means that when you've got ideas, go and tell the market about it, but don't rely on your salespeople to do it. So what I used to do is we would send out a letter before email was around. This was 1902. But seriously, it was in the early 80s and what have you. And we would send a letter out to all of our customers and let them know that we are running a seminar on this or that form of success factor. And obviously, many of them were not customers of ours. So when I say bombardment marketing, I'm talking about, for instance, in a war zone, who goes in first? The soldiers? Of course not. It's missiles, it's fighter planes, it's tanks, etc. And then the soldiers go in. Okay, that's the order of things. In business, we shouldn't allow our salespeople to go to market and tell people about a very interesting success story if we don't set the groundwork for them, which is what I call bombardment marketing. So I would go to the seminars, the salespeople would go to the seminars, and I would not promote anything other than the story we had to tell them. And I let them know that we had several stories, and I outlined the stories. People were taking notes and so forth, because we weren't selling any product. We were selling success with our product, which our competitors were not doing. And then at the end of the meeting, the customers would break, and immediately they'd go over to our salespeople to ask them, when can you come round and we can get this actually happening in our salon and so forth. So that was a very useful exercise for us. It may seem expensive, but it wasn't. It was just me going down to the meeting, the salespeople coming in their area. So there was no big deal, no travel costs. We didn't take all day to do it, only an hour or so, hit them right on the nose with the idea. And they weren't used to seminars like that. The usual seminars they went to, if any, were all about products. This was about how to succeed with a product. So, bombardment marketing. Don't forget that one. Contact me if you need more help with it. Oh, okay. So, never step out of the team circle. So here's the circle of the team. So the manager's there, salesperson number 1, salesperson number 2, salesperson number 3, salesperson number 4, number 5, salesperson number 6, etc., depending on how many people you've got and so forth. Now, if you have a problem with salesperson number 2, okay, don't step outside of the circle and criticize this person to their face, because you are part of that team. That's not the way to do it, okay? You are part of the team, they are part of the team. Take them on one side, don't embarrass them, and say to them what you think they do well. Just tell them, first of all, I wanted to compliment you on things that I know you do well, and you should know what they do well. The only way you can know, by the way, is to look at their results. That's one side of the coin. And the other side of the coin is to actually go with them on visits to see how well they do. Okay? So you say, these are the things that I think you do. Obviously, they'd be delighted to hear this from the boss. And then say, now, there's some other things that I really need you to do, and I want to help you with them. So we're not talking negatively, we're talking positively about the future. So don't ever step outside the team circle, criticize someone in it, and then leave the circle again, because that means you're a traitor. Okay, don't do it. It's the worst thing you could do. Okay. What's next? Customer retention strategy. Well, one of the things that I have been talking about are, when we talk about the purpose of business is to make money. Well, no, it isn't. We've already explored all that. Making money is a commercial goal of the business. It's very, very important, but it's a background factor. You don't go around telling your customers what we're hoping to achieve this week. Would you mind buying a little more to help us get target? That's nonsense. You've got your targets behind the scenes. Those targets are split to go down into the salespeople as well, on the basis of contributions and so forth. And then, interestingly, we realize that the purpose of business is not to make money. What the purpose of business is to find customers, serve customers, satisfy customers, don't pacify them, satisfy them, and keep them, or if you like, retain them. Now, the only way to keep a customer is not to hope that you will keep them, or to simply keep on doing the same old thing. The idea of customer retention is to develop the customer further, because the more you develop the customer, the more you will deserve to keep the customer. Okay, so it's all right for organizations to say it's important for us to keep our customers. Of course it is. So what are you doing about it? You know, what you have to do is something tangible, which is to keep your eyes on that customer and to keep doing whatever you can to help them to succeed, so that they appreciate what you're doing as a contributor and not just a distributor of products. Okay? So that's the only way to develop, the only way to keep customers is to keep developing them. Next. A special numbers game in business. Nobody plays this game, by the way. Unfortunately, they don't mean not to do it, but they don't do it. So I'll give you an idea, give you an example. Here's the manager, by whatever title that she or he has. Here are the sales team. For argument's sake, let's say there's 10 people on the team. Okay, and there's one manager. Now, they have meetings together. The pressure on the manager from the 10 people can be very difficult for the manager. Now, it's not as if these people want to cause problems. It's just that when they meet with the manager, don't forget they get together and think about things. They will make points to the manager about why it's too difficult to do, why it's too hard to do. I tried it, it didn't work, and what have you. And they will gang up on that manager. And the manager does not want to be offside with her or his own staff. Okay, they don't want to be having arguments with them and so forth. So although they may fight back, the idea is, the real numbers game is to look at the market. Okay, and to align yourself with maybe 5 to 6 customers, maybe 1 or 2 prospects, and to meet with these people on a regular basis. Now the market, let's say the market is consisting of 1,000 customers of the kind that you want to do business with. Here we have 10 versus 1. Here we have 1,001 versus 10. Okay, now I'm not talking about conflict here. I'm talking about the fact that the manager can only help the sales team if the manager, with the staff, get to understand what customers like, what they don't like, what have been their worst experiences, what have been their best experiences, etc. And the numbers game then simply means that management is connected to the customers, and the manager will also help the team to be connected with the customers wherever that's possible and should be possible, because the staff never get the chance to meet customers outside of transaction mode. So the idea is for both of the manager and the sales team to meet with the customers, tell them things like, I'm going to go through our standards with you, our sales standards, and I want you to take a note of them. We've given you a pad each and a pen, and tell me what you like about them, and tell me where you feel it should be improved or changed in some way. Well, the customers are delighted to do that, especially if you give them a small reward for having taken part. But what you're learning from these 5 or 6 customers, which you can change, by the way, is what the market is thinking. Because the customers here will give you an understanding of what the market thinks and what the market has to say. But we don't ever talk to the market except through these people here. So I have told you that at Schwarzkopf, by accident, we formed a board of customers, and we had a board in Australia, a board in New Zealand, met with them 3 times a year over a 9-year period. So I was never left in any doubt as to what our customers thought about our business, what they liked, what they thought we should improve, etc. But the other things we found out are what they needed help with, okay? Because there was a lot of areas where they needed help. And if you don't have that kind of opportunity to talk to customers and learn from them, then you're not going to be able to get better. So let's go to the next point because it relates to this one. So let's say you meet with customers, as we did, and they give you feedback as you ask it. You know, what do you think of this product? What do you think of that product? What do you think of our salespeople? What do you think of our service standards? Blah, blah, blah. Ask them about that kind of thing. They will tell you. And tell them, you know, be open. We're interested to know. We want to improve our situation. And thanks to Daisy. And then the idea is to be able to also find out by asking particular questions about their businesses as to what they're good at and what they want to get better at and what they should get better at. Like, for instance, hiring staff, setting standards for staff, training staff, setting targets for staff. These were in salons, which was, they never did things like that. They never ever did things like that. The idea was, therefore, to find out what their weaknesses were. Because if the customer is weak, if they don't succeed, then, as I said earlier, you will not succeed. So we then decided to devote ourselves to helping salons with areas where they didn't ask for help. Okay? We knew that they had deficiencies, which is what I'm talking about now, but they also had efficiencies. They were very nice people, very hardworking, artistically inclined, etc. Very much for their customers, their clients, as they would call them. But they had these defects, these deficiencies. And so we, one by one, we started to give them help, okay? None of it was based on being boastful and all that kind of thing. We gave them help. We asked our board of customers to test the ideas, and they would help us to make them correct. And the customers loved it. And then we started going to market. So I started writing articles for our customers. I started creating specific ideas for them on how to hire staff, how to meet with staff on a quarterly basis to find out how they could grow and develop more, how to incentivize them, all manner of things that they thought were fantastic. Nobody else, not one other company, did anything about their weaknesses. They didn't even know about their weaknesses. The salons themselves didn't know about their weaknesses. They did their best, but we needed them to do a hell of a lot better. Because if they didn't grow, then we wouldn't grow. I hope you understand that. It's a very basic point of view. But as I've said before, don't stand on the touchline and watch your customers fail and criticize them in the process. Get center field with them and help them to be successful. Don't expect it to all change overnight. Expect that you will continue to do it. So now in the marketplace, we have great companies like L'Oreal and Weller, and they would be providing products to the market and good service to the market, what have you. And we did exactly the same, good products, good service. And then we started offering all these other ideas that they had never heard of, never asked for, some of which they had to pay for to cover our costs, but we made no profit. And many of the items they didn't have to pay any money for. They loved it, even including national conferences, which I usually reserve for the salespeople. But we organized a national conference every year and 2 regional meetings where I would go and do a seminar for our customers and so forth and introduce new ideas to them and so forth. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. So remember, customer weaknesses are the basis for your strengths. And if you don't know the weaknesses, you can't build new strengths. And as I said, you don't build the strengths on the basis of you being Mr. or Mrs. Wonderful. The idea is that you're a partner of your customer. Okay, I think we've got one more item, Simon. Yeah, okay, this is just a reminder that the difference, because I'm often asked, what's the difference between a manager and a leader? Well, first of all, they're very nice people. They're both well-intentioned. They have nothing against their company. They might have the occasional complaint behind the scenes, but leaders actually drive the business. they'll come to sessions like this and they'll take notes. And if they want to contact me, they can, because I will help them any way I can. They will continuously drive the business forward, whereas managers tend to stay in one spot. They tend to stay parked, so to speak, which means that they do administrative work and all that kind of thing, which isn't going to cause any new business to come your way at all. But that's what they think management is. That's what I thought management was when I first got started. And I would stay behind. There was lots for me to do, and I wouldn't know what was going on. But then I found out. And when I found out, I realized I didn't call myself a leader or anything like that. I realized I can't sit around in the office all day. I have to go out and be part of what goes on and learn to work backwards from the market. Learn to work backwards from what the customers like, what they don't like, what they want more of and less of, etc. So be a leader. More than happy to help you with that at any time. That's it. We don't want to take up too much of your time. Thank you again for watching. Thank you very, very much to Simon, who's organized all of these sessions. This is session number 13. And I know that he's not as good looking as me, but why would we want to go into that? It's not fair to talk about that. So can we put that in the background, please? Yeah, so I want to say thank you to Simon, because he's the guy that made all this happen and continues to make it happen. So well done, Simon. Thank you very much. And nice to see you all. Yeah.
Another great session, John. The last 2 weeks, I've really enjoyed them personally, particularly how we've broken down these into, 7 or 8 critical steps, for everyone to, or 6 or 8 critical points. John, a couple of things I just picked up there. The hotel industry, okay? So for our friends in Australia here, or globally, actually, that might be struggling in the tourism industry right now, there might be many sitting there thinking, well, what am I going to do? I don't have customers coming in the door. How am I going to get feedback? What would you suggest to industries like that to be doing, right now, John, to try and plan for when demand comes back? What would be some of the key things you would try and do?
How to talk with customers, you mean?
No, for example, we're talking about getting feedback from customers, finding out what they want and then trying to, make alterations to your service or your offering to them. If you're a business like a hotel or the tourism industry right now, what would you be trying to do to find out potentially what your customers in the future might want when we start opening up back up and traveling around the place?
Well, I think it's something that should be done at all times and not just when we get back to normal. I mean, we have to have a connection. Here's an example for you. There's a guy living in Queensland, and he has to move to go into another job. And he's able to go to Adelaide to do some work. He's been there about a year, and he's enjoying meeting people in Adelaide. And after about a year, one day he doesn't feel very well at all. So he talks to some of his colleagues and says, "Can you recommend a doctor for me?" And they say, "Yes, of course." And they recommend a doctor. He makes an appointment. He goes to see the doctor. At the moment when that person meets the doctor, what does the doctor know about him?
Not a lot.
Exactly. They've only just met.
Yeah.
But would it be fair to say that the doctor knows what this person's blood pressure should be?
No, we don't.
Well, no. Should he know what the person's blood pressure should be?
Oh, yes. He should know those kind of,
Yeah. So there's a whole range of things that the doctor would know about the pulse rate, about this, about that, he already knows about you before he's met you. And he hasn't met you yet, so he hasn't met and talked to you about the way you see your health and one thing or another, but he's going to. But in the meantime, he knows about you before he's even met you. And that's what we've got to do with our customers, is we've got to talk to customers and get used to the fact that we can't simply sit in an office, aim salespeople and products at the market, look at the results and say, damn it, and come up with some excuses. What we've got to do is work backwards from the market. And the only way to do that is to study the market, have them at meetings and so forth. They'll enjoy it. I mean, the meetings that we had with our customers, the border cut, they enjoyed being the meetings more than we did. Because they were meeting with fellow salon owners and they had a ball. They absolutely loved it.
What was the dynamics like in those meetings, John? Like, were there people, would you purposely pick, a board of customers that weren't maybe direct competitors in the same stage?
For the most part, they were not competitors. Philosophically, they might have been competitors, but after maybe the first year or so, a couple of people dropped out here and there because they weren't really the kind of people we needed. But, the point is we ended up with a strong team. Ordinary, nice people. And these people began to make it clear to us without realizing it that they needed all the help they could get. And in those days, there were no business coaches around. So we became the business coach. But not a boring one, not saying, oh, well, you should have this plan and you should have that plan. I mean, we help them in the fundamental areas of the business, like a doctor helps us with our vital organs. You can't know about
John,
it unless you talk to the customers about it.
Yeah, I really think it's a real key strategy that everyone should be following. So, I really enjoyed it.
Nobody does it.
I really enjoyed today's session on the back of last week's, how to lead your sales team to success. This leadership strategies for managers was really, really good. Guys, I did go in the show that the LinkedIn feed was freezing a little bit. So I'll make sure, in particular, the last two shows, I'll put the YouTube links in my LinkedIn profile. You can always go there and watch them as well. Or you can head over to the YouTube channel, and if you guys subscribe and turn notifications on, you get a little pop-up message every Thursday before the show, before John and I go live. So again, this show's for you guys. Some people have asked me, it's got nothing to do with plastic recycling, but it's got everything to do with it because we are all in business together. And I hope all of my colleagues in the industry have had a chance to watch. And all of our friends and colleagues on LinkedIn have had a chance to watch these shows, and very appreciative of John's time and John making himself available every Wednesday evening in America. And obviously it's 11 a.m. every Thursday morning here in Australia. So I hope you guys have an awesome week. John, thank you again. I know you've had an extremely busy day. You must be hungry. You must be ready to go out and let your hair down like myself.
What do you mean let my hair down? What are you saying?
Well, I'm going to do the same for the rest of the day. I'm going to let my hair down.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, all right, okay. Let you
go. Guys,
I think that's great, and I hope people enjoy it, and very, very good for me to be reminded of things I've been talking about for years. So there you go.
And just to finish off, please, if you want a copy of any of John's 13 books, the email address is scrolling across the bottom of the screen now. When it gets to it, there it is right there, info@johnlees.com.au. John can send you the PDF version of the 13 titles of those books, and you can choose one. You can choose a couple. John will send them to you in PDF version. And then don't forget, if you are a business that needs this kind of help, John can make his services available. And whilst he might not be able to travel to you right now, as you can see in these sessions, delivering these kind of sessions on a digital and video level is also highly valuable. So, guys, get in touch with John if you need this help. In the meantime, we will see you next week, unless you've got anything else you want to add, John.
No, I was just going to say, do you have my email address and what have you? And it's right there. So I'm happy to receive emails, as I have done, from several of the people that have watched the sessions, asking me for books, asking me for thoughts that I had, all sorts of things, which I very much enjoy doing.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, John. I'll speak to you soon, and we'll see you guys all again next Thursday live with John Lees.